I am the kind of woman who used to believe blood was thicker than betrayal. That no matter how many times someone hurt you, if they were family, you forgave them. You gave them another chance, and then another, and another, until there was nothing left of you but the silence they expected. My name is Alina West, and I spent more than a decade losing everything I loved to my own sister. Her name is Diane, and she didn't borrow boyfriends, she stole them. Not because she loved them, but because they loved me first. The first time it happened, we were teenagers. I was 17, in love with Trevor Jenkins, the quiet, freckled boy who used to wait for me after math class. We'd sit on the steps behind the gym, sharing warm Cokes and colder secrets. It felt real. Until one afternoon, he stopped answering my texts, stopped walking me home. And a week later, I caught him and Diane laughing in the garage, her perched on the dryer in her cheer uniform, his hand on her knee like I never existed. She giggled and said, "You weren't exclusive, right?" Like she hadn't just detonated the first of many small bombs inside me. People always said Diane was the pretty one. She had my mother's wide eyes, glossy hair, and the kind of body that made people assume she'd walk out of a magazine someday. I had my dad's sharp tongue and sharper cheekbones. I was smart, funny, a little intense. We weren't enemies, not at first. But somewhere between puberty and my mid-20s, I stopped being her sister and became her competition. By the time I was 28, Diane had accidentally slept with 3 of my boyfriends. Always the same story. They met at a dinner I'd invited her to. She was going through something. They were just trying to comfort her. And then one thing led to another. And every time, she'd smile sweetly and say, "I'm just making sure they were worthy of you." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. Because the alternative, the truth, was so much colder. Diane didn't take my boyfriends because they were hers to begin with. She took them because she could. Because she liked to watch me fall apart. Because my heartbreak was her favorite kind of entertainment. And still, I tried to forgive her. Until the day I found her in our bed with the man I thought I might marry. Naked, unapologetic, looking me in the eye as she said, "Honestly, I did you a favor." He was terrible in bed. That was the moment something inside me broke. Not loudly, not violently, but clean, like a bone setting itself the wrong way, permanently altered. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just walked out of that apartment and made a decision I never thought I was capable of making. If Diane loved stealing men so much, I was going to give her one she couldn't resist. One that would ruin her from the inside out. Revenge doesn't start with rage. It starts with silence. That night I drove aimlessly through the city. No music, no tears, just me, my headlights, and the kind of fury that doesn't burn. It freezes. By the time I pulled into the parking lot of my apartment, I already knew what I was going to do. Diane wanted men she couldn't resist. Fine, I'd find her one. But not the kind who brought flowers and told her she was special. Not the kind who comforted her after faking a crisis. Not the kind who wore charm like cologne. No. I would give her the kind of man who wore danger like a suit. The kind who destroyed women like Diane without ever raising his voice. I spent the next few weeks living a double life. By day, I worked my hospital shifts like nothing had happened, smiling at patients, charting meds, pretending I wasn't unraveling. By night, I was deep in the internet's underworld, digging through public records, court filings, and background check databases. I wasn't looking for just any toxic man. I wanted precision-level damage, someone whose outside screamed success, but whose inside was made of rot. It took time. But I'd sent Romano, a 6'1" con artist wrapped in custom suits and investment jargon. His LinkedIn page was immaculate. Stanford MBA, venture capitalist, strategic advisor to a dozen startups. His photo, movie star level handsome. But one layer down it all fell apart, divorced twice. Restraining orders from both ex-wives. Pending investigations from the SEC, and more than one anonymous Reddit thread warning women to run. Perfect. I created a fake LinkedIn profile. A startup founder, looking for early investors. We met at a downtown cafe. I wore soft makeup, a silk blouse, and carried a sadness I didn't have to fake. I don't even know why I try anymore. I told him, showing him a photo of Diane on my phone. She steals every guy I date. Every single one. I can't compete with someone who looks like that. His eyes lit up, like a wolf sniffing out blood. You seem incredible, he said, reaching for my hand. Any guy who left you for her must be blind. Hook ego. We dated for 3 weeks. I played the part flirty, insecure, smitten. He played his confident, attentive, always one step away from offering me a life I couldn't resist. Weekend trips to Aspen. Dinner at the Capitol Grill. A bracelet I later returned for store credit. I let him think I was falling in love. And then I set the trap. I want you to meet my family, I said. But please, don't flirt with Diane. She has a history. He laughed. Don't worry, she's not my type. I smiled sweetly, because I knew he was lying, and that was exactly what I wanted. I invited Vincent to my mother's birthday dinner like it was a casual suggestion. Olive Garden, 7 p.m. family only. He grinned like I had just handed him a map to buried treasure. Of course, I made sure Diane would be there. And I made sure she had no idea who she was about to meet. I even texted her earlier that day, bringing someone. He's not that serious yet, but I didn't want to come alone. Please behave. She replied with a winking emoji and, as long as he's not another one of your quietly charming software nerds, I'll be fine. Classic Diane. She never saw the hook until it was already in her throat. Vincent played his part like a Tony Award-winning actor. He brought Mom flowers, complimented her perfume, laughed at Dad's awful jokes like they were stand-up gold, held my chair, poured the wine, told stories that made him seem rich, worldly, and emotionally available. And to Diane, nothing, not a glance, not a word, not even polite eye contact. I watched her unravel by the minute. She started with small gestures, brushing her hair behind her ear when he spoke, leaning forward just a little too far when she laughed, resting her hand on his forearm under the table as she asked him about his fascinating career. He smiled politely, answered briefly, then turned back to me every time. It drove her insane, exactly as planned. At one point, I excused myself to the bathroom, but I didn't close the door. From the hallway I watched. Diane leaned in closer, voice low, body angled toward him like a magnet. My sister's sweet, but she's kind of boring in certain departments, she whispered, her fingers tracing a slow line down his sleeve. I could show you things she wouldn't dare dream of. I waited 2 more seconds, then stepped back into the dining room, mascara freshly smudged, expression wounded but controlled. I walked straight to the table, looked Vincent dead in the eyes, and threw my glass of Merlot in his face. Gasps. Diane jumped back. Vincent blinked, stunned but silent. And I ran, right out the door, right into the night, the performance of a lifetime. She called me that night, of course, voice trembling with manufactured concern. Vincent totally came on to me. I'm so sorry you had to see that. But honestly, you're better off. Something about him felt off. I told her I needed space. I let her believe she had won, because within 48 hours, she posted an Instagram story from his luxury condo balcony, wine in hand captioned, "You can't stop fate." Hook, line, destruction inbound. Diane moved fast. She always did when she thought she was winning. Within a week, she had moved into Vincent's high-rise condo in Cherry Creek. Within 2 weeks, she was flashing designer gifts on Instagram, captioned with things like, "My man gets me when blessed." By week 3, she wasn't calling to brag anymore. She was too busy playing house. She had no idea she was building that house on quicksand. From the outside, it looked perfect. Weekend getaways, rooftop cocktails, cozy selfies in matching robes with 1,000-thread count sheets behind them. But I knew what lay underneath. Vincent wasn't in love. He was working. I recognized every move he made, the fast emotional intimacy, the subtle questions about finances, family, passwords, just in case. The way he used flattery like a scalpel. I watched from a distance as Diana fell, smiling, dreaming, exposed. She gave him access to her bank account for shared expenses, started investing in one of his exclusive venture projects, talked about marriage. All the while, I listened to her voicemail updates with the detachment of a scientist observing a specimen. And still, something in me twisted. I'd spent years dreaming of this moment, of Diane finally tasting what she'd forced down my throat again and again: betrayal, manipulation, loss. And yet, as I watched her fall deeper into Vincent's illusion, I felt something I didn't expect. Not guilt, not regret, something softer, something harder to name. She was still my sister. The same girl who shared my bunk bed when we were kids. The one who cried the first time she got her heart broken and asked if love always felt like drowning. And here I was, handing her the water. I used to think revenge would feel like justice, that seeing her suffer would restore something inside me that she'd broken, but it didn't. All I saw now was a woman walking into darkness, smiling like it was sunlight, and I had lit the match. I wasn't sure what that made me anymore. Not a victim. Not quite a villain. Just someone who had been hurt too many times and finally decided to stop bleeding quietly. But even in silence, some part of me still whispered, "Is this really who you wanted to become?" The first crack came quietly. A missed FaceTime call from Diane at 1:13 a.m., then another at 1:18. Then a text, "Do you think Vincent's ex is dangerous? Just curious. She's been deeming me weird stuff." I stared at the message. Not because I didn't expect it, but because she was already doing what Diane always did, explaining away her instincts. A week later, she called again. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "It's nothing. I think his ex is just bitter. She keeps talking about money, court stuff. Vincent says she's obsessed. He's been stressed, but he's amazing. Like really amazing. He's just under pressure, that's all." I didn't respond. Because what could I say? I picked him for this. Then came the withdrawals. Not emotional. Diane's savings account, her emergency fund, even her 401k, gone one by one, all invested in Vincent's latest startup that didn't exist. She posted less. The smiles in her photos stopped reaching her eyes. Her captions changed too. Not every storm comes to disrupt your life. Some come to clear your path. Trust the process. The universe gives its hardest battles to its strongest soldiers. I had used those quotes myself once, right before I collapsed. Then, the silence. No updates. Until I got the call. She was whispering, "I think something's wrong. He grabbed me yesterday. Left a bruise. I told him I was thinking of moving out and he lost it. He locked me in the bedroom. Took my phone. But it's okay now. He said he was just scared of losing me. That I make him crazy in a good way." And just like that, she flipped it back into fantasy. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a game anymore. This wasn't just revenge. It was danger, real danger. Days passed. Then came the FBI raid. It was on the morning news before it hit my phone. Vincent Romano arrested for securities fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, conspiracy. Over 5 million stolen across 5 states. And right in the center of it all, Diane. Photo blurred, mugshot not. Arrested, charged, shaking in a hoodie that didn't belong to her. I watched her face on the screen. Her eyes weren't seductive anymore. They were hollow, tired, 29 going on 50. And in that moment I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel justified. I just felt cold. Because no matter what she'd done to me, I knew exactly what it was like to be humiliated in front of the world and have no one step in to stop it. I had let it happen. No, I'd designed it, and now I was watching it burn. But the worst part, I wasn't sure if I wanted to put the fire out. The voicemail came at 6:47 a.m. I was standing in the kitchen, pouring coffee into my favorite mug, the one with the hairline crack no one could see unless they looked closely. Fitting. I didn't recognize the number at first, but I recognized the voice, even through the static, even through the sobs. "Alano, it's me. Please. I'm in county jail and they're saying I might go to prison. Vincent, he used me. I didn't know. I signed papers I didn't read. I trusted him. I didn't think. I never thought this could happen. I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve it, but please, I need your help. Please. Please. She was crying, not the performative kind. Not the crocodile tears she used when she got caught. Not the breathy whimpers she used to make men feel needed. This was real, raw. Ragged. I listened to it 3 times, and then I deleted it. 2 days later, the story made the evening news. Local woman arrested in multi-million-dollar investment fraud scheme. Her mugshot flashed across the screen, mascara streaked, eyes hollow. She looked nothing like the girl who used to steal my boyfriends just because she could. She looked like someone who had finally realized that choices have weight. And sometimes they land on your chest like a stone you can't get out from under. Mom called that night. Her voice was shaking. You have to help your sister. I stayed quiet. She made mistakes, but she doesn't deserve this. I made mistakes too. I said, calm as glass. And no one saved me. You knew what he was, Mom whispered. Silence stretched like scar tissue. Didn't you? I didn't answer, because the truth didn't fit neatly into yes or no. Had I known Vincent would destroy Diane this completely? No. Had I picked him because I knew he would ruin her? Yes. Diane eventually struck a plea deal. She testified against Vincent in exchange for lesser charges. Served 8 months in minimum security. No prison jumpsuit. No cellmate drama. Just time to think, time to sit in the echo of her own decisions. When she got out, she moved across the country. Portland, barista job, small apartment, public transit. No Instagram updates for months. And then a post, a simple one. Her standing in the rain, hair pulled back, no filter, captioned, trying again. I stared at the photo for a long time. She looked older, quieter. Not like someone who had learned her lesson, but like someone who was still learning how to carry it. And I didn't know what to feel. Victory. No, not anymore. Not when revenge had left me feeling like I'd won a war by setting fire to my own country. All I knew was that Diane had finally met a man she couldn't conquer. And for once, she was the one left behind. I thought revenge would taste like closure. But standing at the edge of everything, watching Diane's life collapse, listening to her plead, seeing her rebuild from scratch, all I felt was emptiness. Not grief, not guilt, just the kind of quiet you only hear after something's broken beyond repair. I've been in therapy for a year now. My therapist doesn't call what I did evil. She calls it misdirected survival. Says that when people betray us enough times, we start believing justice is something we have to build with our own hands. That if no one protects us, maybe we need to become the consequence. I told her once, I don't regret it. She nodded. Not regretting it doesn't mean it didn't hurt you too. That was the first time I cried in her office. Some nights, I dream about Diane, not the version I destroyed, but the one from when we were kids. The girl who used to sneak Pop-Tarts into our bunk bed. The one who painted my nails while we talked about what kind of women we'd become. In those dreams, she never steals anything. She just laughs, lays beside me, and calls me Lena, like she used to when no one else was listening. I always wake up with tears on my pillow. A few weeks ago, I got a letter. No return address. But I knew the handwriting. Diane. Inside was one sentence. I think about what I did every day. No apology, no ask. Just a sentence left to hang like a breath that never fully exhales. I haven't written back. Not because I'm angry. Because I'm still figuring out who I am without the hurt. People talk about closure like it's a clean door you shut and never open again. But sometimes it's not a door. Sometimes it's a mirror. And when you finally look into it, you see the woman who was hurt, yes, but also the woman who learned how to protect herself in the only way she knew how. Was it messy? Yes. Was it cruel? Maybe. But it was mine. And now, I'm finally learning how to live a life that doesn't begin and end with Diane. A life where I am no longer someone's collateral damage, or someone else's revenge story. I'm just me, not broken, not bitter, Just becoming. Have you ever been hurt by someone who was supposed to protect you? Have you ever done something you swore you'd never do, just to survive? You're not alone. Share your story in the comments. We post real, raw stories every day. Subscribe to Telling Story with Me for stories that remind you. Healing isn't always pretty, but it's always possible.